Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Not Alone. I'm Valeria Lipovetsky, and we are going to sit down and cover what felt like a near-death experience for me, which was my first panic attack ever. I didn't really want to sit down and talk about it, to be honest with you, because I'm still processing it, but it felt right to also verbalize the feelings and the experience that I've had in order to get more lessons out of it. I've been speaking about mental health, especially women's mental health, a lot recently. I think that we all know, and if we don't, let me tell you, how under researched it is, how many underlying issues that we just don't attend to as women, and we carry the load, the mental load, in such a different way than men do. And I have to say that that was what happened for me. I think as women, we are so good at suppressing these emotions in order to keep going, and we're holding it in our bodies. And I didn't want to admit it because, I pride myself to be a very self-aware and very in tune person. So I didn't want to admit the fact that I just completely lost touch with my body. I just wasn't listening to it, and it truly gave me all the signs it needed to give in order to get me to kind of scale back and attend to it. But I didn't listen. Let me take you back to the day where I experienced it and walk you through what it felt like. If you ever had one, I'm honestly shocked how scary it is. I think for anybody that haven't experienced a true panic attack, you don't understand how scary it is until you're experiencing one. And that was the case for me. I always kind of looked at these things as something that's just, I always looked at people that talked about anxiety and panic attacks in a very, I don't want to say dismissive way, but in a way where when you don't experience it, so you don't understand the severity of it, right? And I'm fully being transparent about it. I was in Toronto, and I actually flew there with Jake to drop him off for his sleepaway camp, which was the first time ever that he's gone to sleepaway camp, which was its own stress as it is. But I was also there for work. And I was already going on a couple of weeks of, first of all, intermittent fasting. So I've been doing that whenever I'm not on my menstrual cycle, on my menstrual phase. I was like, I'm going to do intermittent fasting. And I was drinking coffee in the morning. So I was already kind of running my body to the ground, but I was just obviously very energetic and very motivated to get through the next couple of weeks. When I arrived to Toronto and dropped off, Jake was trying to juggle the whole, like, I had a full shoot day. We were shooting a campaign with my team. We had a bunch of meetings in Toronto with my team. As you guys know, I have a Valeria Inc. Most of them are in Toronto, so really had like back-to-back meetings in order to kind of get on the same page, making a few changes here and there, talking about the future. So there's a lot of like mental capacity that's been used. And then obviously a day for shooting the campaign while also making sure that Jake is taken care of, and then he was sent to camp. I was already feeling the stress in my body before I left. On the day of my flight, I actually had like a work situation that got me so upset that I felt like my body was kind of shutting down, and I started feeling lightheaded and feeling like I can't really feel my body. It was kind of buzzing. But then I did a few breathing techniques, and then I went on the plane. And then the next day I had a meeting at the office. I got to a point where I got really worked up, and I felt the same thing. I was just kind of like zoning out, and I had to pause and take a couple of breaths in order to get back to myself. But that was already a couple of signs that were more obvious for me to pay attention to. But of course, as most women, we're just trying to get through it all and do it all. I didn't. The next day, I the day honestly started great. I got to the office. I was on a call. I was walking around. All of a sudden, I'm feeling like I'm about to faint. My body's kind of shutting down. Like there's muscle spasms. There's kind of involuntary movement in my body. And that really scared me. Right away, I went on the ground. I put my feet up. I thought, okay, maybe it's because I haven't really eaten in the morning and I was drinking coffee. There's just, too much going on my body. And kind of laid down, had some sugar like chocolate, had a juice, tried to kind of come back to normal, started feeling better. Again, did the breathing technique, drank some water. And then I said, okay, I need to go and eat like an actual meal. And I went for lunch. At lunch, I was actually sitting with Rachel, our CEO. I was sitting at lunch and, you're in a restaurant and there's all these people talking. And it's just, I started feeling like I'm there, but I'm not there. And just got really scared with how my body was behaving, how my mind was playing games. Now, I need to bring you some context to why I was even more anxious when it was happening. So, take you back a few months ago, I did a Prenovo scan. If you guys don't know what it is, it's this MRI that is a full body MRI and it just checks for everything. When I did the MRI, they found a cyst in my brain. So, I went back to do another more targeted scan of it. A couple of weeks after, and I got the results. I showed it to my doctors. My doctor is like, listen, a lot of people have cysts they don't know about. And this is in terms of size and all the things that it is, you have nothing to worry about. And obviously there was no symptoms. Obviously after that, I started getting headaches and different symptoms, and every symptoms that I had, I correlated it to the cyst. So I started already playing these scenarios in my head. Now, I told myself months ago, 2 months ago, I told myself, Valeria, you're going to go to a neurologist just as like a third opinion from someone that specializes in this, and then you can be rest assured everything is good. And I didn't do it. I kept postponing it. And obviously with such a thing, such information sitting in the back of your mind, even though I heard from a bunch of doctors, like it's nothing to worry about, just something we, will monitor, you're good. It obviously just sits in the back of your mind and you constantly think about it. So that was just another added thing that was going on in my head, aside from all these other things, running a business, going through changes, and also, with the kids. The summer is a very busy and very taxing time for parents, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. So I was going through it, right? But most people do. I was in a restaurant. I started feeling just kind of really zoning out, and obviously where I was going in with my head is the cyst. So I'm sitting there and I'm just feeling like I'm about to die. It honestly felt like it. It's so dramatic to say, but I couldn't breathe. My heartbeat was going insane. I was just feeling like I completely have no control over my body, and I just continued to fuel that anxiety with the whole cyst thing. So I look at Rachel. I tell her, okay, I need to go to the emergency. I sat in an Uber. We went to emergency. Thankfully, it went pretty smoothly there. I showed them all my reports, all the findings, all the MRI that I had. Like, I have it all stored. But I have to say, I was very angry at myself for neglecting that and for not attending to that, like feeding that anxiety by not going and seeing a neurologist, not prioritizing that because I had other apparently more important things to do. So kind of, going through the feels and the emotions, and they did a full checkup on me. They did my blood work. They did everything. I was talking to my doctor on the phone, the doctor in Miami, and, she was very much just trying to calm me down, saying, listen, it's a lot of stress. I know your lifestyle. I know how much you work. I know how much, life can be taxing. It's it's probably something related to stress or panic or anxiety. Let's talk about one of today's sponsors, Haya. If you've been looking at the ingredients of many of kids' vitamins today, you'll see that most of them contain around 2 to 5 grams of sugar, along with other gummy junk and hard to pronounce chemicals. It's basically candy in disguise. That's why Haya was created, the pediatrician approved superpowered chewable vitamin for kids. Haya fills in the most common gaps in our children's diets to provide the nourishment our kids need with a yummy taste that they would love and zero sugars. Formulated with the help of a nutritional expert, Haya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies and supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and many others to help support immunity, energy, brain function, concentration, teeth, bones, and more. It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, and everything else you can imagine. Haya is designed for kids 2 and up and sent straight to your door so parents have one less thing to worry about. Haya fills in the most common gaps in our children's diets to provide the full body nourishment our kids need with a yummy taste they love and with zero sugars. Aside from my kids having a field day with testing out the chewables and rating them based on their liking, which was great rating, they also loved decorating the bottle, especially Maxi. The bottle comes with stickers and you can customize it for the kid. It was really cute. I also recommend checking out their new kids probiotic and nighttime essentials. We've worked out a special deal with Haya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hayahealth.com/Valeria. This deal is not available on the regular website. Go to hayahealth.com/Valeria and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Now, for me to hear that wasn't very reassuring because I'm not the person that ever dealt with necessarily anxiety or any kind of mental health issues, never dealt with depression, didn't have postpartum depression. So I've always looked at myself as like, okay, I'm resilient to those things. I've managed to find ways that help me go through them, and I know when it's time to, scale back when I'm getting to a point of just really high stress. So to me, what she was saying didn't really make sense, but as we got the results and I spoke to the doctors there and the nurses, and they were wonderful, they said, listen, this is kind of a classic panic attack. It all kind of makes sense to me. Everything added up in terms of how I was neglecting my priorities, how I didn't attend to things that I knew were bothering me and were sitting in the back of my mind. I also knew that my body physically was telling me when I was getting to a point of like high stress, the way it was shaking and I was feeling lightheaded. That was a sign. That was a sign that it's time to find a release rather than continue to pile up what's already inside. So that was very scary for me. And I came back, I had one more day after I was at the emergency room. I had one more day to just really sit with myself and really understand why I was doing that, especially the amount of information that I've been sharing, in terms of like the mental health crises that are happening with women. Like the data shows that women have such a higher percentage of mental health issues exactly because of that, because we are storing and holding stress in our bodies and it makes us sick. And for me to speak about it and research it, having it such a important aspect of my work recently, I just felt like a fraud, honestly. It felt like you're talking the talk but you're not walking the walk. So I had to sit and be honest with myself and to really break down what is happening in my life and what I'm prioritizing and how I need to attend to myself in a different way in order to prevent that from happening again. And, I was talking to a lot of my friends and I was shocked, absolutely shocked to hear how many women have been dealing with panic attacks for years. Some of my closest friends that just never really spoke about it, they mentioned anxiety here and there, but I had one of my closest friends was like, "Oh my God, you just got it at 33? That's crazy. I've been getting them since I was like 18." I was like, "What?" You go through this feeling that you're gonna leave this earth, it's so insane, and something obviously triggers it, and we continue to not listen to it and live our lives and just deal with the consequences of that. By the way, the consequences that may only appear years and years and years after, right, in a form of disease. I mean, God forbid. I had to do it. Is this a Russian thing? I don't know. But it's absolutely mind blowing to me. And also, when I posted it and shared on my stories briefly about what I've experienced, again, the amount of women in my community that reached out, being like, "Yeah, this is just something that I've learned to live with." So it was a big aha moment for me. It was a moment where I just started to take stock of my life and asking myself the question of, what am I doing all of this for if the quality of my life is not going to be amazing? What am I doing this for if I push myself to a point where I feel this way? So I started looking into everything that is out there to help support me in my journey of really learning how to navigate stress. And again, I don't want to refer to stress as a negative thing. I've always looked at stress as something that, first of all, it's just something that we all experience. It's not something you can avoid. So I don't want to necessarily label it as negative. A lot of the time, stress is the thing that gets us to move, that gets us to do something extraordinary, that builds that resilience and that muscle, right, of getting better and faster and stronger. So I'm okay with stress. It's when it gets into those areas of just physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion. So to be able to navigate that area where it moves from the positive impact to the negative one, that's what I was trying to understand. How do I do that? So I've been looking into different modalities and things that can help me. And obviously, the first thing that came to mind is just therapy. I was looking for ways to release and to let go and to kind of cleanse every aspect of my body in terms of like my mind, making sure there is no residual stress that can be built on and create, that scary effect. So I looked into therapy, and I have to say, therapy is something that I believe in, but not for me. I've tried therapy a few times, and obviously, I know that it's a really long journey to, first of all, find a person that you can trust and communicate and really click with. But for me, it's not even about the person, it's about the method. I find therapy to be very cerebral, and I am already very much a person that intellectualized everything, and I'm able to talk about things and make it even bigger and expand on it in all different ways. But it doesn't tap into that deeper surface, if that makes sense. Not a surface, deeper layers that can actually change the way I think and move and act. So I love therapy for many people, and I'm not saying that I'll never try it. I'll probably try it again at a different point in my life, but it didn't feel intuitively that that's what I need. I obviously started looking into, as I've been sharing on my Instagram, just different kind of modalities, if it's energy and if it's, physical, like reflexology, somatic type of like massages and movements. There's a lot of things and a lot of ways for us to, release stress. But something that's been kind of showing up in my life in the past year has been hypnotherapy. And I know what you think. That's what I thought when I first heard hypnotherapy. I'm like, I'm not sitting and getting somebody, put a clock in front of my face and take me to places I don't know where I'm going. So I get it. But I heard of hypnotherapy a year ago when I did a podcast episode with Joanna, the founder of Nix. And, she's a woman that I highly respect, and I love the way she shows up in the world. And to build something so huge and to be able to bring your vision to life the way she does. When she said that she gives a lot of credit to hypnotherapy, that's when I started getting curious about it. And she actually connected me to her hypnotherapist. And for, I would say, 8 months, we've been kind of like talking, trying to set up a time to sit down to do a session. And it just didn't work out. And again, I'm a person that truly believes in like timing, and to really let myself and kind of the universe, to align. When it's time, it's time. And it just didn't feel right. And surprisingly, I mean, not surprisingly, but she reached out to me the day after my panic attack. And she said, I'm available whenever you need. Just let me know. And without a doubt, I said, okay, this is a sign. And I booked a meeting with her. I did my first hypnotherapy session in Canada. She was wonderful. She made sure that she was available the next day, and I did it for the first time. Listen, it's a completely different modality. It's a different feeling, but it felt like something I want to explore more. So far, I've done 2 sessions with her, and I left with a lot of emotions, but also confirmations. It felt very reassuring, kind of like you learn to trust yourself again, if that makes sense. The first session we covered, obviously, was around the panic attack and just speaking to that anxiety and that, I guess, pit that's sitting in my tummy about it. Pit in my stomach. How do you say that word? Yes. Referring to kind of the fear that I carry after the panic attack, to also make sure that it doesn't happen again. You have to attend to that too, that's not something that just goes away. And I don't want to live my life in fear. I don't want to be, apprehensive about every situation that I'm in and every decision I make, to make sure that I don't get too stressed, because then I'm going to have a panic attack. So we very much attended to that, trying to understand kind of the root, the underlying issue, and the conversation that I needed to have with myself. And that's what hypnotherapy does, right? Hypnotherapy is, you are conscious, but you're also unconscious. So you're sitting there and you're getting into a really deep state of meditation. You're getting into your theta state, and you're able to really go into your subconscious and speak to it and have a conversation with yourself, and sometimes put a shape or a face or a figure to that fear. And that's what we did with my first session. And it felt extremely beneficial for me. I was very apprehensive, of course, but I was leaning in. And the second session was even better. In the second session, I was really able to reach visually and like feeling in my body. I was able to reach some kind of underlying issue that I just never knew I needed to attend to. And every session I've been doing so far has a different kind of focus, but it's been a really wonderful experience. And maybe I'll have Grace on the podcast one day to really dive into what this modality is and how it shifts, our consciousness and our kind of wiring. But that's just something I've been doing. I would say the biggest kind of change, the biggest add on to my life that I've been doing. The second thing is I'm just trying to live from a place of it's not that serious. You know what I mean? It sounds so silly, but I honestly keep repeating that in my head over and over again of like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Anything that is happening around me or to me or for me, I'm like, it's not that serious. I take the lessons, I go with the flow, I reconnect with my body, and I try to listen. And I've said it before, and I've done it before, by the way, but there was a disconnect for me recently that I guess this panic attack had to happen for that reconnection to happen. So I've been really prioritizing just overall like space to feel and to think and to feel emotions. That's another thing. I'm going to cry saying it. I don't know why, but that's another thing that's been kind of interesting for me that I've never really paid attention to. I haven't really been feeling like to the 100%, if that makes sense. It's like even happiness, right? Not just anger or sadness. Like haven't given myself the opportunity to ride through the emotions in the last few months. And that's kind of that autopilot, right? Where in order to move forward, in order to go and get everything done, I just kind of like shrunk my capacity to feel, and everything kind of became dull in a way. And I'm so grateful for that panic attack that happened because it's like I needed that physical feeling to shake me out of it. And now one of my biggest, I would say, projects is to get back to that full emotional like experience. Because if we don't have that, I mean, what is life then, right? I don't want to get that deep, but I mean, it's that deep. So it's been a really interesting journey and timing for all of it to happen for me in order to unravel and kind of get me closer to myself and to reconnect to, the places that I lost touch with. So I got a lot of insights. I got a lot of information from my community that have been dealing with something like that. A lot of people were like, yeah, the first couple that I've experienced, I used to go to the emergency. The first couple of panic attacks I was experiencing, I would go to the emergency room, but now there's all these techniques. And I wrote all of them down, and I'm slowly trying to integrate different things into my life, but things that I can actually follow through and can become a lifestyle, not just something that I do for a couple of months and then forget. And just overall, that reminder that I just have to be more gentle with myself, but also really learn to empty it, empty myself from all this, from lingering fear, from lingering stress, from lingering anything really that just sits and builds up in my body. And I think that what I loved about hypnotherapy is the ability to visualize a lot of things. It's less about words, it's more about the way the body feels, and that really helped me to be able to remember what the work that I need to do, or visualize that anxiety or that fear of that, just that. I have to say that through the years, especially with more mental health awareness, sometimes what it does when you start talking a lot about something, it makes us kind of desensitized to it. And I have to say that's something that happened to me. I mean, everywhere you go, at the end of the day, mental health now, it's like a whole industry, right? And it's on one hand, it's wonderful because we have more data, more information, more people talking about it, so we can actually find solutions. But on the other hand, you're just like, okay, it's just becomes a thing that everyone feels and has. And I don't want to normalize women feeling this way, if that makes sense. I want to normalize the conversations. I want to normalize us diving into it and finding solutions, but I don't want to normalize this feeling. And in my Instagram stories, when I shared my experience, I said this even just put a different kind of fire under my ass to talk more about it and to share more about it in a way that can connect us women back to our bodies, so we don't have to get to those places of the panic attacks, of the anxiety. So I don't know how it looks like yet. I guess this is the first step of just opening up about it. And I think it's going to shape into something else, some kind of action. I know it, I feel it. There's a reason why I've experienced it, so I can speak to it and about it in a different way. You know what I mean? Now, I know I mentioned this is in my brain, and probably, you guys are listening, had the reaction that I had, which is like, holy shit, that's so scary. It is scary, but it's something that I am monitoring, and it's something that it's rare but common, if that makes sense. And by the way, just something to share. When I did go to do the Prenovu scan, I did get a lot of DMs saying, a lot of doctors been saying how much they're against it because of this, right? Where people go and they're living a healthy life, everything is great, and then they find something and it creates this whole other life of like fear and anxiety about a health condition that might not even be anything. So that kind of what happened here for me. But I'm also very grateful that it happened because I'm just more aware, and I am taking the steps to attend to it. But, speaking to a few doctors and a neurologist, that's not something that you kind of do anything. You just make sure that it doesn't grow. Otherwise, you're good to go. So I'm just, going to be walking around, living my best life with a cyst in my brain, whatever. It's weird. It's so weird. It's such a weird experience to be a human, I'm telling you. But I'm so happy I opened up about it. I'm happy that I had the opportunity to sit down and share my experience, because even if it didn't happen to you, it might have given you a little bit of an insight of how it feels. I am going to work towards never feeling that way again. But my mission is very much to just get to a place of a full understanding of my body and what is happening in my life, so I can not control it, but attend to it. Thank you so much for listening. And I talk a lot about and share my own kind of experiences about different things. But one of the things that I love most about this community and my community is the ability to hear your stories. And when you reach out to me, if it's through DMs or email, and share your experience with me, it means a lot. I learn a lot about the world through you guys. So if this spoke to you, if you want to share with me your story, you know where to find me, literally everywhere. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't miss my newest episode right here. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, please go and leave a review with your biggest takeaway. I love reading your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you can leave them in the comment section. And always, always remember, you are not alone.